So, going into the union budget, the big question is what is that change that the government needs to make in order to boost our economy and bring it back? Well, the big change is to rescue the middle class or to stop crushing it. The middle class right now is being crushed by the burden of taxes. And the numbers are fairly obvious if you look at it. And it's really saving the middle class that will turn around our economy. Let me actually put this across, right? So if you look at it very simply, in India, we pay two types of tax. There's direct tax that's paid directly to the government, and there is indirect tax, which basically you pay to a service provider or to someone you bought a product from, and out of that, it goes to the government. So that's direct and indirect. Now, if we look at direct tax, within direct tax, there's income tax. We're all familiar with it. It gets deducted directly from your salary. And then there is corporate tax, which the corporates pay. Now, according to the data from the Income Tax Department in 2014-15, now 10 years ago, net direct tax collection was about 6.9 lakh crore rupees. So about nearly 7 lakh crore rupees. In the last financial year, that number has gone up to nearly 19.5 crore rupees. So it's gone up by 182%. And that's fairly impressive. That basically shows that a lot of the money that's being spent in the country is coming directly from your pockets, it's coming out of income from corporates or from people like you and me who take our salaries and then pay income tax out of those salaries. Now, in these two things, corporate tax has historically been a larger chunk of that tax, but it turns out recently, after a massive tax cut that this government gave to corporates, income tax paid by individuals actually has a higher contribution to the country than corporate tax. You just imagine what I'm telling you here. I'm telling you that individual people who pay income tax are actually contributing more than these massive corporates right now through the tax that they pay on their income. Let me give you the numbers there. This is what the data looks like, right? So back in 2010, 2011, corporate tax used to be 67% of the direct tax entire pie. Now it is 46%. And the remaining is coming from income tax. So in 23, 24, personal income tax accounted for 60% of the net direct tax collections, and corporate taxes had gone down to 36%. So we actually are in a situation right now where direct tax collections have gone up tremendously. And of those direct tax collection, corporate tax has come down and personal income tax has gone up. And that, I will tell you, is not a good thing. Now, I want to remind you that basically in 2019, the government, Nirmala Sitharaman as the finance minister, had announced this in the budget where she had given a massive tax cut to corporate India. They used to pay 30%, it was brought down to 22%. And for new manufacturing firms that were incorporated in a certain window in that year, it was brought down to 15%. And the understanding was that these companies will use the money that they save from this to invest and to create more jobs. Guess what? They saved, but they did not create more jobs, or they did not pass it down in wages. One political analyst called Amitabh Tiwari has written this article at India Today, and he has basically said that the government reduced corporate tax, and we'll pop that up on your screen right now. He said government reduced corporate tax and took a loss of 1.4 lakh crore rupees, but corporate profits, which have quadrupled since then, have not actually been passed on. He basically said the corporate sector is performing, but it is paying less and less tax. So basically, corporates are doing really well and they've created a great deal of shareholder value, but they are paying less and less tax. So who's paying that tax then? In the middle class taxpayer, and I'll tell you why. So if we look at the number of income tax filings that have been done, right? You have to file your income tax. They were 3.3 crore income tax filings in the year 2013-14, again about 10 years ago. That has gone up to 7.5 crores. So that's great. But a large chunk of those people have actually said that we don't have to pay income tax because we make a very small amount of money. Now, many of these people are senior citizens. So about 4.7 crore people have said they don't have to pay tax when they filed their income tax. So who's actually paying tax? 1.6 crore people were paying tax in 2013. It's gone up to 2.8 crore people who are paying tax in 2023-24. So that is a shocking number. Remember, we are over 130 crore people, out of which 2 crore people are paying tax. That is a small sliver of people who are paying income tax. And I just want you to put a pin in that idea that out of 130 odd crore people, remember we're 1.3 billion, we will be 1.4 billion, the largest population in the world. Out of 140 crore people, 2 crore people are paying income tax. Now, apart from income tax, and that's the income tax, what are the other taxes that we pay? Obviously, there's GST, there's capital gains tax. So once you've got your salary, your income is tax deducted at source. From the money that you have left, what are you paying? So if you buy anything or you use any service, you're paying GST at exorbitant rates, by the way. GST was supposed to simplify our system. It's actually made it much more complicated, and we pay among the highest rates of indirect taxes as well. Remember that whole fiasco of this is what caramel popcorn will cost and salted popcorn will cost and regular popcorn will cost. The fact that the GST Council is spending its time actually complicating the system per taste of popcorn actually shows you that it's complex and it is taxing emotionally and not just financially. Apart from that, if you were to save any money and you were to invest that money, you will pay capital gains tax. There's long term capital gains, there's short term capital gains. You will pay security transaction tax on every transaction that you make in the market. You will pay dividend distribution tax on every dividend that is come to you. So there goes that. Those are all of your investments as well. If you put it in a fixed deposit, you'll pay income tax on any return that you get from that fixed deposit. Now, apart from goods and services tax, there's VAT, there's excise duty, there's service tax. Remember, we pay about 55 to 60% tax on petrol and diesel, among the highest rates in the world. Apart from that, we pay customs duty, we pay excise duty, we pay stamp duty when you buy a property, you pay road tax when you buy a car, you pay toll tax every time you take a bridge, you pay property tax every year on property that you might own, you pay entertainment tax, which has been merged with GST, you pay electricity duty when you're buying your electricity. Other charges, you pay professional tax, you pay health, education and health cess, you pay the Swachh Bharat cess and a Krishi Kalyan cess. These are a long and a complex set of taxes that everybody pays. So indirect taxes, everybody pays. So if you were to buy the smallest packet of glucose biscuits for 5 rupees, you'd be paying indirect taxes on it. Now, but why is this a burden on the middle class? Because they're already paying income tax. And apart from income tax, after you've paid your income tax, there's a second round of income tax on everything that you buy, every service that you use, every money that you invest, any return you get on that investment, any money that you set aside for your, for your family or for your old age, there is a tax levied on almost all of it. There are now very few things left which are tax free. Now, there's an argument here that, oh, what about the deductions that you get? The problem with the deductions is that the quantum of that deduction is so small in comparison to what any of these things cost. So you have a tiny deduction. And if you look at your health insurance premium or your life insurance premium or any investment that you have to make, if you have to adequately plan for your retirement, those deductions make absolutely no sense. And then the money that you're actually spending to run your house, there is inflation. There's data to show us that education, so college fees and school fees have gone up 40, 50, 60%. If you want to send your kid to undergraduate university in India, you'd be paying lakhs of rupees. And some of these nicer universities and some of these engineering colleges, medical colleges are charging 25 lakh rupees a year. How is anybody supposed to afford that? Imagine having two children in a house and what that is going to cost. Remember also that India has very high interest rates right now, which means that if you're paying an EMI, and we understand right now there are about a little over a crore people in the country who have home loans. And so their EMIs would have gone up because the Interest rates are very high. If you're taking an education loan, those EMIs are very high. Personal loans, there's a large number of people in our country who use personal loans, which means they are paying a very high EMI. And what this does is it eats out of your household budget and leaves very little savings at the end of the month, not to mention what's happening with the gas cylinder and the price of food and the price of vegetables and the price of milk. At the end of the day, you're paying all of this money in taxes. What are you getting in return? And this is again where the urban middle class gets crushed most of all. What is the quality of the life that you're buying with the taxes that you're paying, which are right now comparable to any other part of the world? Are you getting clean air in most of our cities? No. Are you getting clean water? No. Are you getting good roads to travel on? No. Are you getting good education institutions by government to send your children to? No. Are you getting good hospitals to send your children to? No. Even health insurance has become prohibitively expensive. Senior citizens' health insurance has gone up 20-30% for the year. There's no relief. There's still tax on health insurance. So it does seem, of course, that the entire tax system is very opportunistic at this point. It's sort of raking in the money for the government, but not giving enough value to the people who are actually paying to run this government, which is the urban middle class. I mean, you're getting crushed by the fact that the quality of life is poor, that you don't have clean air, clean water, education, safety, hospitals. I mean, let's not even talk about, a work-life balance, because most of the people who run the companies that we work for expect that we will work 70 hours a week, 80 hours a week, 90 hours a week. But what is the quality of life you're getting in return for working all of those hours? What quality are we able to offer our children? Our children are constantly getting sick because of air pollution, because of dirty water. We're developing viruses. We don't know where and why they've come. And after all of this, after the taxes that we pay, we're left with very little quality of life for all of that back-breaking work. At the end of the day, for a lot of the experts are saying that a deduction of income tax or a reduction of tax on the urban middle class will actually make a difference. Let's take a look at what the government can do, because there'll be arguments saying that, oh, but the budget is actually an announcement of the accounts of the government. This is how much we've collected, this is how much we've spent, this is what we plan to do for the next year. That is true. But it also gives the government the opportunity to make some changes. Here are changes that I think the government can make. First of all, the deductions. The deductions have to go. Those deductions are too small, they're too tight, they don't make any sense. We should remove the deductions altogether and reduce the income tax slabs and reduce the rate at which the urban middle class is paying income tax altogether. We need to simplify the system that we have right now that is too complex, both on income tax and on indirect tax. We have to push corporates who have taken advantage of a tax break now for these many years. We have to push them to create more jobs, to invest more money, and to increase wages. Because if they don't do that, then you will have a stagnant middle class that will no longer qualify as middle class, because our savings will simply get eroded. The government has to figure out how to create high quality jobs, jobs that actually lift people out of poverty. They have to find ways to reward those people who are working as gig economy drivers, riders, delivery boys, with a better quality of life, so that they can give their families a better quality of life. And make sure that those people who are paying tax are rewarded. There's also another entire category of people who are not paying tax. The people who, for example, have very high net worth farming incomes. Farmers who make more than 1 crore rupees. Why is it still tax free? A large number of people who make a large amount of money or are beyond a certain category of wealth, why are they not being taxed? And of course, remember, the biggest problem in our country right now is that every time there is a state election, every single party is announcing new and new subsidies, that we will transfer this much money, we will give you this much, we will give you this thing in free, we will give you that thing in free. But where is that money going to come from? That money is going to come from taxes collected from the middle class. Until this system is rationalized, the middle class will continue to get crushed. And they will continue to get crushed because simply they don't have the numbers to change an election. So you will keep pumping in free subsidies to a certain category of the large portion of people who you will keep in poverty, so that they continue to vote for you. There's a large portion at the top that gets away without paying its fair share of taxes. It's really the middle class, which is a sliver in the middle of less than 1%, that's shouldering the entire burden of this complex system. That has to change, and it has to change now. Leave me a comment if you believe that the government will make that change tomorrow in the budget announcement, and how you think that change should be made.